Welcome, I am Todd Raffel with ERE Media. If you're watching this video embedded somewhere, you can find us at ere.net, along with our other domains, tlnt.com, sourcecon.com, FordiceLetter.com. Anyhow, ere.net, here I am with Cassi Fields. Dr. Cassi Fields is an industrial organizational psychologist. Sometimes she refers to herself as the career doctor. She's out of McLean, Virginia. We're talking about gender issues, pregnancy, maternity leave, particularly in the wake of the new comments by Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, where Sandberg talks about women self-selecting themselves out of jobs, careers, and specialties. Women who say, okay, I'm in medical school and I'm going to take one specialty or lack of specialty over another because I perceive that someday in the future that will give me more balance. What Sandberg is saying, that's not a great idea. You should enter a career, job, specialty with a position of strength and be in a better position to then get your balance later. What are your thoughts on that? Again, Dr. Cassi Fields.
Hi. Well, what I'm concerned about is whether Sheryl Sandberg is saying that women are in a position where they are choosing to be a victim. And I don't want her, I'm concerned that people will go down that slippery slope of calling women victims or blaming them for the situation that they find themselves in. I do think that there's a very small percent of the population that might be choosing family over career. And perhaps they do that because they're not aware that there is room for flexibility and negotiating a work-life balance. What the organization needs to do is offer opportunities for work-life balance and be flexible. And, in today's work world, there's a lot of opportunity for flexibility.
Yeah, it seems to me all of the above is true in many cases. I think that women do, at least I don't have data, but just from people I know who have self-selected, like in medical school, yet I wouldn't say that lets companies or employers off the hook in some way, that women are victims and companies are, the women are sort of at fault and companies are not or something. I think a lot of companies are very rigid in their policies and just haven't really adapted to as many women in the workplace, even after all of this time. So I think kind of all the above is true. It seems to me, and you're describing companies being flexible, it seems to me that many companies are flexible, and they're maybe some high-tech companies and management consultants and some companies like that are very flexible and have a lot of different programs. Others that I hear about that I have friends working for, they're nowhere near considering people telecommuting or being flexible or anything, or coming back to work 30% and then 60 and then 90. They're just not there. Is that kind of how you perceive companies too?
Well, I think it depends on what type of companies, and you're right. There are still companies out there with some rigidity. But if they take the example of, I work with police and fire departments who have found ways to allow women to continue working even when they're pregnant or when they are starting to, the Family Medical Leave Act, they're going home. The husbands are also taking family medical leave for a period of time, and they're finding a way to do it and come back to work, and the position is held for them, and they return, and they successfully manage work and life. There are companies, I think you're right, more modern companies, especially people who are in front of computers all day, really don't mind if somebody computes from any location. It really doesn't matter where you are located at to use a computer, to use a telephone, or any other types of technology. It all depends upon the type of job. Some jobs, a manufacturing job, for example, you're obviously going to have to be present. But even there is room for creative thinking and flexibility in terms of allowing a person through their childbearing years to work an alternate schedule, and then ultimately, as their children grow and as they have more opportunities to get help at home, to get them more in the job in a more standardized fashion.
I know we probably both also know of people, we both probably know of people who have self-selected out. We both probably know of people who have sometime before, during, or after their leave felt that they were discriminated against, maybe in a subtle way. Maybe someone gets hired, that person gets a loftier title, a lot bigger office, more flexibility themselves, and the woman who's going to be on leave is on leave or has been on leave perceives that their territory was sort of encroached upon. Is that be, why? Is that because employers perceive that if you're having kids, you're somehow going to be less dedicated or less interested, not going to be working as much? Um, what's going on out there that this is happening so much?
Well, this reminds me of the sexual discrimination case at the OWN network, Oprah Winfrey's network. That is very similar to the situation you just described, where the plaintiff is claiming in that case that she wanted to come back to work, and just what you described happened, which is, that somebody else who was more available, at least in the plaintiff's, the way she perceived it, was more available and more willing to work longer hours or a different type of schedule, got an office and basically replaced her. I think every situation is unique. It's possible that a supervisor or a manager might have that perception of a mother returning to work. It's also possible that the mother could have the perception that she won't be able to contribute as much. But at the end of the day, it's both responsibility to negotiate a method for it to successfully work, because obviously the woman who is now a mother is really equal to the father who is now a father and has still the same capability. Nothing has changed.
I think you actually brought up a point, which is I do know one person who's who's in a little battle with her previous company, and in that company, I think it was the manager. It wasn't like the whole company has this systemic problem. It was a manager, and I think you touched on that point as well. Do you think that's a common problem where maybe policies are either unwritten policies or happening on the manager level, and they may not be consistent with what the company is trying to achieve?
I do think that frequently happens with any type of discrimination or anytime that roadblocks are placed in front of anyone. That it can be the individual supervisor, it can be an individual coworker who is causing or is placing the roadblocks, if you will. And in that case, the employee really needs to know what the rules are and what her or his method of, formally making complaint is.
Interesting. Cassie Fields, we will have to do this again. This has been interesting and probably brought up more issues that we could talk about on a number of different future Skype conversations. So with that, thank you and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Todd. Take care.